This is the USA Emergency Broadcast Network, your source for reliable disaster preparedness information.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of this station, its management, sponsors, or other hosts. If you have any comments or suggestions about this program, please contact us at radio@usaebn.org. That's radio@usaebn.org.
Every new law in the United States begins with a single spark, an idea that emerges from a legislator, an advocacy group, or even a concerned citizen. But what happens next? How does that idea survive the political labyrinth to become the law of the land? The journey from draft to law is far from straightforward. Each bill is shaped by debate, compromise, and often behind-the-scenes maneuvers. Yet, by understanding the process, investigators and engaged citizens can shine a light where it matters most. It all starts with drafting. Bills are often the result of bargaining, words on the page shaped by competing interests and political calculation. A closer look at a bill's sponsors and donor ties can reveal who is truly pulling the strings. Next, committees weigh the bill's fate. Here, public influence is most critical. Committees sift through testimony, expert opinions, and lobbying efforts. The harsh truth: most bills never escape committee rooms. Advocacy at this stage can mean the difference between progress and a quiet demise. If a bill reaches the chamber floor, debate intensifies. Amendments are proposed, and sometimes riders, unrelated provisions, are attached, slipping through under less scrutiny. Comparing the final text to early drafts is key to uncovering these hidden shifts. When both chambers pass different versions, conference committees must reconcile them. This is often a black box, bargains struck behind closed doors, rarely open to public view. Here, document analysis becomes an investigator's most vital tool. Finally, the president can sign, veto, or let a bill become law. Even a veto isn't always final. A determined Congress can override it with a 2/3 vote. Why does this matter? Understanding each step gives analysts and citizens the power to spot influence, anticipate outcomes, and advocate before the window closes. Using investigative workflows, scanning official sites, tracing campaign funds, tracking amendments, and gauging impact transforms opacity into clarity. Take the Choice Act of 2017. Marketed as regulatory relief, it arrived packed with riders that quietly rolled back consumer protections, increasing financial risks. The lesson: only a careful, methodical approach reveals the true impact of legislation. By mastering the legislative process, you can move from confusion to clarity, and from sideline observer to informed, empowered participant. Imagine a single phrase, tucked deep within hundreds of pages of legal text, holding the power to redefine who pays, who benefits, and who shoulders the burden. Such clauses, often overlooked, can quietly spark significant change in people's lives and entire industries. Legislation does not shape society uniformly. Instead, it delivers consequences, sometimes beneficial, sometimes disruptive, that hinge on just a few words. Consider how a rider, concealed in a transportation bill, clandestinely steered billions toward defense projects, bypassing open debate. This is not an isolated flaw, but a recurring feature in legislative process. Impactful provisions are routinely buried, waiting for a trained eye to bring them into the light. To uncover these pivotal clauses, several practical tools and strategies stand ready. Begin with plain language reading. Glossaries from the Congressional Research Service demystify dense legal jargon, turning complex sentences into understandable statements. Every compound sentence is an invitation to break it down. What does it actually say? Who does it affect? And how? Amendment tracking becomes essential. Legislative amendments frequently introduce major changes late in the game, sometimes after most eyes have turned away. Investigative researchers compare the original draft of a bill to its final version using public resources like GovInfo.gov, watching as controversial shifts migrate into law. Fiscal notes are another key resource. Hidden within these documents are forecasts of who stands to gain or lose financially, marked by hikes, cuts, and new fees. Often, the winners and losers are decided in advance, if only you know where to look. Beyond the tools and methods, understanding legislative architecture is vital. Writers attach unrelated matters to must-pass bills, lawmakers hoping controversy will go unnoticed. Sunset clauses set terms that expire to appease resistance, while trigger mechanisms wait in hibernation, ready to activate under specific conditions, such as economic turmoil. Each device is designed to shape outcomes, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. A reliable investigative workflow starts with thorough research. Download the full bill text from trusted government sources like Congress.gov. Search for keywords, notwithstanding, except, provided that. These are telltale signs of exceptions or carve-outs. Context matters, so cross-reference clauses with committee reports, ensuring every provision is mapped to its real-world regulatory impact. Recognize the red flags. Pay close attention to clauses introduced in late-night sessions, language that points to external statutes without clarification, or exemptions for select industries and regions. Each hint marks a passage worthy of scrutiny. Reflect on the Telecommunications Act of 1996, a bill presented as the guardian of competition. Beneath its surface, embedded clauses paved the way for massive media consolidation, narrowing local news diversity and deepening corporate control. The essential skill for any investigator or analyst is to move beyond the surface of the legislative text, spot the clause that quietly changes lives, decode its meaning, forecast its reach. In doing so, you don't just interpret law. You illuminate its true intentions and consequences for the world outside the page. Legislation isn't just words on paper. It's a catalyst for change that touches wallets, rights, and daily life. When a bill becomes law, its impact spills beyond the committee room, shaping economies, communities, and courtrooms alike. But how do we anticipate not only the promises made, but the hidden consequences that ripple outward for years? Forecasting matters because accountability demands it. To hold our leaders to their words, we must project not just intentions, but outcomes. Transparency depends on foreseeing effects before policies reshape reality. Above all, preparedness gives communities the knowledge to adapt, not after the fact, but in real time. Analysis begins with dissecting impact from all angles. Budgets shift, tax codes change, markets respond to new freedoms or new limits. A sudden tweak to insurance mandates might leave millions scrambling for care. Adjustments to school funding can open doors for some, yet widen gaps for others. Even obscure language around data sharing can quietly rewrite the rules of privacy. Scrutinize, too, the legal terrain. Laws often invite constitutional challenges and set precedents that echo in courtrooms for decades. Rigorous forecasting relies on investigative techniques. Cross-reference fiscal notes with donor influence to reveal underlying motivations. Track litigation trends that followed similar laws. Past court battles anticipate future ones. A structured approach helps make sense of it all. Step 1. Map out who benefits and who bears the burden. Next, examine fiscal notes and regulatory statements for clues to true costs. Model possible outcomes by drawing on historical cases, both successes and cautionary tales. Finally, validate your predictions with testimony from independent experts and reports from impartial watchdogs. Consider the Affordable Care Act. Medically, it expanded coverage and slashed hospital debts. Socially, it forced small businesses to adapt. Legally, it went toe-to-toe with the Supreme Court, redefining the balance of state and federal power. Stay alert for red flags, missing fiscal analysis, overuse of emergency powers, or open-ended regulatory authority without clear oversight. Reliable sources like the Congressional Budget Office, Government Accountability Office, Open Secrets, and GovInfo anchor your forecasts with evidence, not guesswork. In the end, mastering these tools turns complexity into clarity. By forecasting downstream effects, you transform curiosity into action, ready to reveal not just what a law says, but what it will actually do. Power in a democracy is never static. When citizens step back, someone else steps in. Too often, those making the rules answer to donors, not to the people they represent. Accountability isn't automatic. It's built by regular people who show up, ask questions, and demand answers. This is the foundation of civic action. How do you move from awareness to real impact? Start with the right tools. Track bills on Congress.gov and GovInfo.gov for real-time updates on amendments, sponsors, and votes. Set alerts for topics that matter to you. Dig deeper by filing Freedom of Information Act requests with structured templates to access federal records, even communications between lawmakers and lobbyists. Your voice matters most before laws are set in stone. Submit written comments during rulemaking periods, attend local hearings, and make your concerns part of the public record. Early engagement can shape outcomes before they're finalized. Advocacy is most effective when it rises above partisanship. Focus on facts, verified by public records and nonpartisan watchdogs. Challenge what you hear in your echo chamber. Seek truth across the spectrum. Frame your message around what benefits the public, not a party. Share the facts through media, op-eds, and coalition building, always guarding against misinformation. Here's how it works. Identify the bill, map donor influence on opensecrets.org, build your case with hard evidence, then take action. Submit comments, sign petitions, and make your voice impossible to ignore. Consider the rollback of net neutrality in 2017. While the public comment flood was filled with fake submissions, real citizen engagement was minimal. The result? Corporations got the upper hand, and consumer power dropped. Vigilance is essential. Watch for bills that appear during holidays, clauses that quietly exempt industries, and spikes in lobbying activity before key votes. These are red flags. Now the tools are in your hands. Hold your lawmakers accountable. The path to impact begins when you decide to act. Let your voice be the one that shapes the next chapter. Accountability is built on more than headlines. It is forged by relentless rigor and trust in every fact. When investigative reporting cuts corners, unverified claims slip into the conversation, eroding public trust and allowing serious misconduct to remain in the shadows. At the heart of the process lies a single, unwavering principle. All public officials answer to the people, not to parties or hidden interests. Investigative journalism must serve transparency, not ideology. But what does it mean to uphold these standards? It starts with ethics. Nonpartisanship is mandatory. Avoid swaying toward any party or agenda. Rely solely on evidence. Speculation is not our language. Every report must serve the public interest. How does this story affect livelihoods, liberties, or social well-being? Every claim requires a traceable reference. Transparency is non-negotiable. The path to a credible investigation follows a disciplined workflow. First, define the scope. What's the suspected wrongdoing? Who's involved? Leads are gathered from whistleblowers, audits, and public records, never rumors. Then comes the search for sources. Pull court filings, legislative records, and FOIA documents. Rely on trusted watchdogs like the GAO and Open Secrets for extra corroboration. Cross-check every assertion. Scrutinize official records. Flag inconsistencies wherever they appear. Build a factual, chronological narrative, one that reveals patterns, whether it's the quiet misuse of funds or hidden nepotism. Before anything reaches the public, each report undergoes legal and ethical review. This ensures the story is not only accurate but also fair, neutral, and respectful of privacy. Only after this validation does the story move to publication, ready for public scrutiny with every key fact supported by primary documents. Ranking sources is a science. Primary government records and transparent audits outweigh hearsay. Relevance matters. Focus on sources directly tied to the investigation. Why do patterns matter? Recurring misuse of funds, lobbying influence, or secretive committee dealings can reveal deeper systemic issues. Issues that drain public resources, undermine civil rights, or shift billions from public programs to private pockets. Consider the impact when late-night meetings and hidden riders in appropriations bills steer taxpayer money to private interests. Such revelations are only possible through standards that demand verification, courage, and clarity. Upholding these principles isn't just about exposing misconduct. It's about restoring faith. In investigative journalism, rigor is your greatest tool, transparency is your guiding light, and public trust is your highest reward.